An estranged couple and their younger versions meet each other at a hotel during the course of a night. As the younger ones try to make sense of their feelings, the older ones try to figure out what went wrong in their marriage and how they can fix it. Elizabeth, Bea, Drew, and Andy are lost and struggling to make sense of things. We learn how time is of the essence, as all four of them get ready to head out for the night. While Bea and Andy, both childhood friends who have fallen apart recently, are preparing to head out for their prom, Elizabeth and Drew, who are older versions of the younger couple, struggle to make their marriage work, and decide to meet at the hotel on prom night. At the hotel after prom, Drew is looking around when he spots Andy, who tries to take a yearbook photo of Bea. She seems irritated and leaves. Andy reminds Drew of his own self when he was young, so he starts giving him advice. Drew insists that he needs to take the shot whenever possible, and gains Andy's trust by letting him know how much he also knows about cameras. When Drew asks about his prom, Andy is more than glad it is over. Elizabeth is in the bathroom letting off some steam and smoking when a panicking Bea comes in. Looking at how hassled, helpless, and angry she looks, Bea reminds Elizabeth of how she felt when she was younger, and tries to help her out while maintaining her own calm. Bea wants to be left alone, but eventually warms up to Elizabeth and discusses the sexist theme of their prom. Elizabeth starts remembering her own prom, but Bea is in a very bad mood, because she just got dumped. Drew knows Andy doesn't have a date, but wonders if there is a girl in his life who has come with someone else. Andy is irritated, and informs Drew that the woman he likes is with another guy. Elizabeth can't help but compare her own life to Bea's, and starts telling her how much worse it might get for her in the future, as what she is feeling now gets multiplied. She then assures Bea that she doesn't have to worry about it yet, since she is describing her own life. Handing over the stress ball back to Bea, Elizabeth wishes her a good night and leaves. Drew feels Andy is the nice guy in this story, and comments on how his experience has taught him that girls don't want nice, but something extraordinary. Drew approaches Elizabeth and tells the bartender to add her tab to his. He then tries to flirt with her like a stranger, trying to revive their love life. They both discuss the younger versions of themselves they just met, and try to recall how high school was for them. She narrates a story about a guy she met in high school who turned out to be a jerk, but had a quality that drew her in. Drew thinks he knows the story doesn't end well. Elizabeth insists that she knew he was Mr. Wrong, and while her heart broke many times, she believes the man did not lose any sleep over their breakup. Breaking character when Drew insists he has lost hundreds of nights of sleep over them. Elizabeth doesn't feel she can pretend like this anymore and decides to leave. Bea's friend Rachel comes looking for her after prom for the after party. Bea is no mood after getting dumped by Dave and wants to head home. Rachel doesn't want Dave to think he has won by making Bea leave the prom. She just wants Bea to end her confidently and enjoy herself, so Dave feels stupid. Bea is not too excited about the idea, but agrees to go with Rachel, and they both head to the elevator to reach the after party. Nearby them, Andy's friend Henry is excited about his chances with girls at the after party, and even when Rachel and Bea walk by, he feels they were checking them out. Andy doesn't buy into any of the excitement, and has no reason to stay for the party. Henry wants him to be a little more positive, and feels this is his only chance to get noticed. When they walk up to Bea and Rachel, Bea acknowledges Andy as an old friend, and they all awkwardly and silently get into the elevator. Henry tries to start a conversation about their plans for the summer, and they all seem to have exciting ones, especially Bea, who announces with a poker face that she will be backpacking across Europe. Andy announces his plans for taking a photojournalism course that summer, even if the others feel he is sort of working again instead of taking a break. Out of the elevator, Bea is frustrated about the prom and does not let Andy take her picture for the yearbook, since she feels all her pictures come out badly. Drew chases after Elizabeth and tries to discuss what exactly has upset her. Elizabeth is still upset about what happened in Argentina, and how Drew thought they were on a break, so took an opportunity to be with someone else. She is still angry that Drew is defending himself after he hurt her like that. Drew is also hurt that Elizabeth puts walls up between them every time they try to talk. He insists she doesn't have all the facts, but Elizabeth cares more about how she feels. Drew really wants to make things work with her, so he decides to take her somewhere special. Elizabeth resists, but when Drew tries tactics like trying to get himself hit by a car, and tries everything to convince her, she finally agrees to go across the street with him. At the after party, Rachel brings a drink for Bea to help her forget everything. She also insists Bea should stop staring at Dave and his new girlfriend and just dance with her. But Bea makes an excuse to head to the bathroom and disappears. Andy is concerned about Dave being a jerk to Bea, and tries to chase after her. Henry reminds him that he agreed to be his wingman, but seeing how anxious he is to check on Bea, Henry allows him to go. Andy keeps knocking on the bathroom door till Bea finally agrees to open it, and lets him in. He casually sits down next to her inside the stall and tries to comfort her. He also asks why she stopped talking to him, like she did when they were little. Andy is also very angry at Dave, and calls him a loser and a douchebag. Bea doesn't want to talk about him, and informs Andy that since she is not dating Dave, it doesn't matter. She also makes a satisfying comment about squirrels being smarter than Dave, which they both agree on and laugh. Andy wants to get Bea out of there and into the party, and she eventually agrees to come out with him. Elizabeth is impressed when Drew brings her to an old and empty theater which has been closed down for a while. She counts the number of rows and chooses the 7th row, which is her lucky number. Elizabeth is excited again and recalls the time they both wanted to watch different movies, and the kind of movies they have always liked. She remembers all the silly things he would do, and a movie where he got so serious he wanted to cry. She then tells him another story of a time when he was away, and she drove a long time to meet him. Drew remembers it differently and recalls her being very happy when she finally got to meet him. Elizabeth is still upset about how that moment felt and gets up, declaring that no matter how many stories they tell each other, it will not end well for them, because all she remembers is the pain. When she is about to leave, Drew gets up and gives her a warm hug. At the party, Dave asks Annie to take a picture of him with his new girlfriend. Annie automatically refuses, which infuriates Dave. B then comes to thank Annie while he's talking to them before she leaves. Annie tries to clarify to Dave that they are just friends, and then actually offers to take their picture. He pretends to take a picture and makes a cheeky comment about forgetting to get the right film for douchebags. Dave stares at him for a while and punches him in the face, and B comes to defend Andy. Dave is angry and throws both of them out of the party. As Andy's nose is bleeding, B gives him a tissue and expresses her disappointment about being thrown out like that. Andy feels the people inside deserve it, and they should stay away from them. But it's not so simple for B, who is angry because she needs to make peace with them, since she is stuck there all summer. When Andy is confused, she clarifies that she lied about going to Europe, when in reality, she will just be working and staying back to figure out her life. Drew and Elizabeth are standing by the pool, and he insists she should go for a swim. She doesn't have a change of clothes and doesn't even know how to swim. Drew assures her he will make sure she doesn't drown, which somewhat frustrates Elizabeth, and she lights up a smoke again. Drew feels bad he has caused her enough stress to make her smoke again. She feels he has more vices, like pride and selfishness, and asks what he thinks her vices are. Drew doesn't want to engage, because he knows this is a fight he cannot win. When she is irritated, Drew insists he knows he has let her down in the past, but wants to make it up to her. Elizabeth feels people only get one prom, but Drew doesn't agree, and he wants to make that night their real prom. He suddenly gets excited as he gets an idea, and asks Elizabeth to follow him. Andy feels bad, and tries to comfort B about staying back in the summer. B asks to see his camera, but Andy is scared she will break it again. Knowing how much this irritates him, B takes the camera and heads to the elevator. Andy chases after her and politely asks for his camera back. He manages to take it away from her, which makes B come back to her reality, where she feels pissed with Andy for making her an outcast among their group like himself. She elaborates that she knows Andy has chosen to be a misfit, so he can judge all the popular kids for being less intellectual. Andy doesn't agree, and feels that he has actually freed B from the stuck-ups. He also predicts how all the people in the party now will turn out to be janitors in the school, because that is their capacity. This makes her laugh, and she points out how his nose is bleeding again. Andy still teases her about choosing to date Dave, but B feels he is a nice guy. Andy is frustrated why a violent guy like Dave seems nice to her, but B just doesn't want to talk to him about it. They come across Drew and Elizabeth, and looking at her, B insists she needs to go to the bathroom, and Elizabeth understands, so she follows her. In the bathroom, B explains everything that happened to Elizabeth, who feels that Andy likes her. B automatically gets defensive, and insists that there is nothing between them. Elizabeth smiles and recalls how similar they are, and how she denied her feelings to herself all the time. Elizabeth knows about all the heartache there is in store for B, and still insists that she cannot avoid being hurt, which B understands. Outside the door, Drew and Andy try to listen to their conversation, but are unable to. Drew asks if this was the same girl he told her about, and is happy for him. Andy cannot understand why Drew is so interested in his life, but Drew cannot shake the feeling that Andy reminds him too much of himself. Drew tries giving him advice again, because he knows that Andy feels he knows everything when he doesn't. B feels Elizabeth is right, and things do get better, but also how creepy it is that Elizabeth seems to know a lot about her future. Elizabeth just doesn't want her to be cynical right now. Drew also insists that no one is going to wait around to figure out how Andy feels, and that he should be able to express his feelings more openly. B then comes out of the bathroom and asks Andy to come with her. When Elizabeth comes out behind her, Drew is curious about the girl talk, but is fine with it being a secret. He is more excited about taking her to the prom he has planned. Andy is upset his camera is broken again, and how it will be a piece of junk if he cannot fix it. B can't understand his fascination with the camera, especially when Andy keeps talking about the art of photography. B teases him for being romantic, but Andy doesn't understand what else there is to life. B has an answer and suggests he can be a cynic like her, to avoid ever getting disappointed. Drew brings Elizabeth to a beautiful hall, and they start discussing their perceptions of marriage. While Elizabeth feels it is a brutal journey of tolerating someone else, Drew insists he has lower expectations from a marriage, and just seeks the basic things in life. He feels that marriage is supposed to be about being happy with the small things in reality. He thinks that while he is happy, Elizabeth wants something life-changing and proper romance from their marriage, and to be treated like royalty. He lovingly places a flower on her ear when Elizabeth declares she did feel like royalty in another universe. B feels Andy should have just taken Dave's photo, since she didn't need him to fight for her. Andy feels he just told him the truth, even if it led to a broken face and a broken camera. B then gets excited about placing her forks on her drink in a manner that defies gravity. Andy knows how fascinated she is by physics, and pretends to be impressed. The waiter then brings their order, and as B gobbles her French fries, she expresses how the next year of her life is going to be wasted. Andy doesn't want her to be so negative, so he points out everything good happening to them in that moment. B is impressed with his positivity and laughs. She then stops when she hears her favorite song playing, and keeps her head on the table to enjoy it better, and asks Andy to do the same. Drew and Elizabeth react to the same song, and it feels like it is her favorite song too. Drew is excited and wants her to dance with him, even when she insists she can't. But his excitement is contagious, and as he keeps grooving to the music, he comes up to her to make her dance along with him. Elizabeth agrees, and they dance happily to the song. When she starts crying, Drew wants to take her to one more place which he feels is special. He takes her to the terrace where they can see the pool, and when she is not impressed, and still crying, Drew wants her to talk to him, so he can figure out how to make this better. Elizabeth admits that he gave her a good prom, but it doesn't solve the problems they have. Drew feels more lost, since he doesn't know what else to do to make her happy. Elizabeth thinks she cannot trust Drew anymore, but Drew thinks she has never trusted him before either. All their frustrations come out again, especially when Elizabeth turns to get away from him, claiming that she doesn't feel he can ever change, even if he matures a little more. Elizabeth feels she came there to remember why they fell in love, but she feels like nothing has changed, and she still feels miserable. When Drew points out that marriage is supposed to be hard, Elizabeth insists it is harder to keep waking up alone every day, when he is out on his travels, and feeling more lonely every second. Drew explains what it is like for him too, to come back to meet her, just to find that she doesn't want to spend time with him. When the topic of him feeling alone comes up, she brings up Argentina again, and how his mistake made her feel even more alone, and like she could never trust him again. Drew apologizes for that time, but Elizabeth feels these are just empty words. She feels his apology isn't enough for her, even if he thinks she is enough for him. She is just done at this point, and walks out in anger, which makes Drew angry as well, and he insists even she doesn't ever change, or let him in through her walls. They both then shout at each other about not wanting to be married anymore, and find their separate spots to sulk in. Below them in the swimming pool area, Andy asks B why she feels this is the worst year for her. B thinks nothing is going according to her plan, and while traveling would have made her feel better, she is stuck there with no plan, and no idea of what she will do next. Andy simply asks if she thinks she can let it go, and not worry about the future. B feels it is not so easy to just let everything go, even if Andy thinks she won't know till she actually tries. Andy gets an idea, and asks her to get up so they can try something. He then does something he usually does before sat prep, and just shouts at the top of his voice. B finds is amusing but is hesitant to do something that daring, and even when he keeps insisting, she starts off by trying to shout, but not too loudly. She finally does nail it, and shouts at the top of her voice, which makes her feel great. Andy then points at something, and when she goes a little ahead to see what he is talking about, he pushes her into the pool and starts taking off his clothes to get in too. B can't swim and starts panicking. Elizabeth and Drew can hear this whole exchange from the top as they sulk in their separate spaces. Andy jumps in to help B, and asks her to put her arms around him. B feels this was a plan by him, and Andy jokes about going back in time and making sure she was born. B doesn't like to be rescued, so Andy again pretends to drown so she can rescue him, but he comes back up soon. When she still is hugging him tight, he informs her they are in the shallow end, which embarrasses her and she stops holding him. B is still worried about her dress getting ruined, and feels she could have drowned. Andy insists she wouldn't have, because he would make sure he doesn't have to live in a world without her. B looks at him hard after he says this, and kisses him in the pool. After they kiss, they both start laughing and get out of the pool. They find a place to go to, as Drew and Elizabeth also start remembering their past by looking at their excitement. They get into Henry's room, and Andy assures her that he will be at the party all night, waiting to get lucky. Elizabeth enters the room Drew has arranged for them, and notices all the rose petals and champagne there. She goes to the bathroom and gets ready to hop into the bath with her dress on. Drew also comes into the room and lies down on the bed for a bit. He brings a bottle of champagne to the bathroom and comes to sit down next to Elizabeth, who has taken out her wedding ring and kept it aside. She likes the effort he has made with the room. He looks at the ring, and asks her not to lose it. They also discuss how in love B and Andy seem to be, and how they too were once like that. Drew then insists that he doesn't care if they keep fighting all the time, as long as they get to make up at the end of it. Elizabeth tries to see things from his point of view, and explains how she knows he takes pictures and tells stories about people all over the world, and loves it, and how she should be a bit more supportive of his lifestyle. Drew looks at her and insists that she is the greatest story he has ever known. He also reminds her of a job he got in South Africa and declares that he decided to let the opportunity go because he wants to take a break. Elizabeth is wearing her ring again and wants to know if he did this for her. Drew insists he did this for them because he wants to make it work with her. They then finally make up and kiss, and he gets into the bath with her. B gets changed and comes out in a towel and tells Andy to not look at her. He automatically closes his eyes and pretends he feels naked too, so asks her to shut hers too. With closed eyes, they start playing a game of asking questions to each other so it feels a little less awkward. In the game, Andy asks why she kissed him, and she opens her eyes. He notices since she doesn't say anything and kisses her on the forehead, before announcing she has lost the game. They both lie down on the bed, and Andy asks her to remember a day when they were 6 years old and buried a hot dog at a barbecue at her place during Labor Day weekend. B starts to remember the day and how her dad gave Andy the bigger hot dog, which he buried, thinking it would grow into a hot dog tree. While B insists she thought it was a stupid idea, Andy remembers how involved she was with the plan, and even wanted to plant flowers on the hot dog grave. B feels it is strange how Andy can remember everything formed 10 years ago, but not what happened a day before. He describes another incident from their past which he remembers better than her. She confesses that she does a thing where she covers her eyes and counts from 7 to 1, till she feels she has disappeared. Andy asks if he can come with her too, and they both shut their eyes and count till 7. When they open them, they look at each other and hold hands. Drew wakes up next to Elizabeth the next day, and heads out to the balcony for a smoke. He sees Andy come out, who was in the room next to them. Drew teases him about B, but he knows nothing has happened with them. When Andy asks what Drew is still doing there, he mentions he is trying to reconcile time and space. Andy tells Drew about going to Stanford soon, while B stays there. Drew again insists they are similar, and tells him to go where life takes him and figure things out, but to always remember the people he loves. Andy comes into the room and finds B fiddling with his camera. He remembers he needs to get that fixed, but after trying out a few things, B asks him to check if it works. He is impressed that she has managed to fix it, and she declares her love and passion for fixing things. He then asks her what is the one thing she wants to build the most. With a promise from Andy that he will not judge her, she takes out a notepad and starts explaining what she wants to build. She draws it out for him and explains that she wants to invent something to combine wormholes to push negative energy away. She claims that if it works, they will be able to push matter through time. Andy is impressed, even if B thinks everyone will think she is crazy. Elizabeth also wakes up in the morning and scribbles something in a note which she puts in Drew's pants. Andy wants to know where B would go if she tried out her machine. She feels she wants to go back in time, to tell herself not to worry that much. Drew is also getting ready to leave, and asks Elizabeth to hurry up as she gets dressed. Andy asks if B is planning to stay back all summer, and not go to Europe. B finally admits that there is something to what Andy said, and she might look back at this time as a magical time. When Elizabeth comes back from the bathroom, she asks Drew if he thinks the kids know anything about them, but he feels they are too stupid for that. While walking with B, Andy admits he doesn't have to go the journalism program, and they both can just hang out that summer. He tries to keep boundaries, since he knows she just broke up with Dave, but also insists he is not doing this because he feels sorry for her. B thinks that is a good idea too, and agrees that they should hang out. They then hold hands and walk out. Elizabeth and Drew watch them going, and feel like they have accomplished something. They then get ready to go somewhere, shut each other's eyes, and start counting from 7. In the middle, Drew finds the note she left in his pocket, which has the same image of the machine B made.